Okay. Okay, so it is live now. Setting up the meeting for YouTube Live.
I'm just checking on YouTube. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's live.
Okay, great. So you can let me know whenever everyone is online. I'll start with the session. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I will just log in from my ID. Okay.
Yeah, please. Okay. Hello all. Can you hear me? Hello. Am I audible, Khagendra?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great. So let's start. Okay, I'm expecting few more people, but still we'll start with the session. I don't know, I can hear myself. Okay. Okay, can you do that? Okay, so we'll start with the session. Okay, here we are going to discuss about how to crack our interview with DXE. So this is our main goal in here. So let me start by introducing myself. Hello, I'm Neha Jaiswal. I'm here to help you out with your DXE interviews or any kind of interviews that you might encounter with us. So talking about what DXE wants and what exactly is the gap that we need to fill in when we are dealing with our interviews. Okay, so you might have given a lot of interviews before, but this you need there is something that we need to look up to when we go for an interview. Okay, that is the basic reason why we get rejected, even after knowing a lot of things. So let's fill in the gap and go ahead with the scene. Okay, so starting with the very first deal in here, what DXE wants. Okay, so the DXE interview process is very simple. It is pretty simple in here. First of all, DXE is a multinational company that they have got a lot of domains that they work in. And we are here preparing you guys to work into backend development. Okay, so the backend development includes technology related to Java. So our core understanding will be here with respect to Java. Okay, so all the frameworks and the programming will be with respect to Java. So now the next thing is the process. So there are basically 2 to 3 things which happens in here, 2 to 3 rounds which are conducted. The first round is your technical round. So in this technical round, you are expected to clear out your technical aspects, like your questions, your conceptual technical aspects need to be clear. Along with that, you need to be good in coding. Okay, so it is not only that if you give all the answers and you're not able to write the code, you will not be selected. You need to make sure that you are good in both the terms, including your technical and your conceptual as well as your programming ability. Both are supposed to go hand in hand. Now, once that is done, the next thing, if you clear the round one, you go for the next round, which is about your managerial round, or it is more of a semi-technical round again. So in here, they might ask you questions, or they probably ask you questions again on how good are you or how great are you in the skills of advanced Java, the frameworks which we have, the enterprise Java things which we have. It depends. It how you are going to present yourself. So it depends upon the individual how the rounds go. But we need to make sure that these rounds are clear. So if these 2 rounds are cleared, then you are selected for the DXE, and within a month you get selected for the same. You get on board for the same. Okay, so I think if this is clear, we'll start with our next point. The next point that I wish to discuss about in Millionlights, we conduct 2 types of sessions. Basically, we go for sessions wherein we discuss about the concepts, the topics which are very much required for you to be prepared while going for the interview. And the second one is for the mock. So we discuss on these things. Mock interviews are the one wherein you get to encounter all the kind of questions. You're going to prepare for the same, and you will come for these interviews, and you get an idea of what kind of questions might come in when you're actually facing your interview rounds. Okay, so what is the requirement? What you guys need to do is, what you guys need to prepare for is, see, the technical aspect. Basically, you need to be confident, you need to be positive, and you need to prepare beforehand when you come for the session. So let's say if you're coming for session number 1, that is the day 1 which we have, so there data structures and algorithms are required. Or maybe you're coming for day 5, wherein your Java is supposed to be done. So you need to make sure that beforehand your all these concepts are done properly. At least you go through it so that you get to know that, so that you understand what exactly is going on with this thing, with this particular session, whenever you come for it. Okay. The next thing is the modules. So here we have got a lot of things. We have got a lot of concepts which we are covering up in this short period of time, which is very important, which is very crucial, because time is the essence here. We want people to get selected for the interview. So it is not possible for us to go from the very dig in very deep, but our sessions are in such a way that you will be encountering almost all the core concepts of these programming aspects, which is going to help you to clear out your interviews. Okay, so starting with the modules, we have got 5 modules. Okay, the first module is about data structures and algorithm. Along with that, you go for core Java. Then there is OOP and implementation, module number 2. The third module talks about your core Java implementation, more about threads, and the other part of IO and everything. The fourth module is enterprise Java. Once you complete your modules 1, 2, 3, you are in a good position to get understand what is happening in module 4. So everything is associated to each other. Make sure that you finish up your first module, then you go for the next one. The sequence is very important for you to understand what is happening within the system. Yeah, am I clear? So the next thing, after the fourth module is actually very important, very crucial. This is the deciding module, whether you are good to go for the interview or not, whether you are really prepared for the interview or not. So this preparation task requires for you to be good in all the 4 modules, and then you go for the Dxe interviews. And once you're selected, then the module number 5, which is advanced Java, is taught to you. Okay, so I think I am clear pretty much. So let me just continue with my session for the next topic. Am I clear to all? Is there anyone with any kind of doubt that you wish to discuss with me?
No, ma'am. We are clear till now.
Great. Okay, fine. Okay. So whenever I'm going to conduct a session, I am going to talk about the concepts which are important and the programming perspective for the same, the approach that you need to take while you're doing the program. Okay, so I will be starting from the very first session. It is a basic, the first 2 sessions which we have, or the first 2 days which we have into our curriculum, is the basic theory thing that we can talk about, like it is for data structures and algorithm. It is mandatory, or it is really important for each and every programmer to know what is happening into their programming. So to understand that, it is really important that you understand what is the working of the underlying data structures, what is algorithm, what is pseudocode, what is flowchart, and how it is actually implemented into our system. Okay, so the bottom line here is that we are writing a program to solve a problem, right? So to solve this problem, we need to follow a particular approach. So for this, we start with algorithms, then we follow up with flowchart, then it is our pseudocode, and then we finally go and write the code. Okay, it is not at all this way that you are directly going to go and rush up by writing the code. No, it's not possible. If you're working with a company and the company requires you to deal with all these things, the company requires you to write a particular component, a particular module, you cannot directly jump onto coding. You need to understand the underlying process of what is happening into while to get through that particular module. Okay, so let's start with this. So I'll be sharing my screen. I will be, just let me know if it is visible to you. It will be going in the same. Okay. For few of you, this will be repetition, but I think it will be words because it is something that you would like to go again with. Yeah, if I'm not wrong. Slideshow. Come on. Okay, just let me know if at all my screen is not visible. Okay, I am not going to show you how to write the code because it is something that you have to come up with. You need to make sure that what kind of variables, what kind of constants, what kind of structure is supposed to be implemented while getting through this deal, while accomplishing a task. Okay, so it is totally up to you. It is totally you who is going to decide for the same. Okay, so I'm just going to give you an idea. I'm just here to guide you throughout the modules, throughout the session before you go through to your interview. So I'll be there for the whole and soul help that you need, and we can go ahead with the same. Okay. So now we are talking about this algorithms and data structures. I have kept it very simple. Now, what is your part in here? What DXE expects you to do? Okay, when we talk about data structures and algorithm, DXE wants you to know what is the basic underlying working and application of a particular data structure. Okay, so first of all, we should be knowing what are the applications of data structure, what is an algorithm and everything. So if I start with the very basic, just to know, few people might be knowing about it already. Can anybody tell me what is data structures?
Data structures is basically the method. It's how to program, how to speak of data, how to deal and manipulate data within a computer system.
Correct. As simple as that. You can make it the way you want it. It is your statement. Yes, it is correct. Unless and until you're covering the topics. Okay, so data structure in very simple term is going to structure your data. Okay, I'm just doing an active passive. No, it is basically the end of the day. Okay, whatever we are doing, we're doing programming, we are doing anything in the world, is to preserve the data or is to get the data in the format which is going to be more useful for me. Let's say for marketing, let's say for AI, for machine learning, each and everything is dealing with data. So it is required that you have a particular structure of data so that you can use it for your later purposes, whatever that can be. Okay, so there are various things. We have got heaps, we have got queue, we have got stack, then there's array, recursion, then there are some methods that we follow, that is hashing, searching, sorting, manipulating data, and everything is included in data structures. Okay, so for performing each of the tasks of searching, sorting, and everything, we have got various algorithms associated with it. So we are not going to see those algorithms. We don't have that much amount of time, but it is required that at least you go through it. Algorithms are something which is a very simple layman English, which you just need to remember and you just need to, reproduce it whenever it is required. So if you understand what is the working, and it is going to be easy for you to understand how the algorithm works. Okay, so let me start with the basic introduction of what is an algorithm. Okay, so these are the three topics which we are going to discuss or talk about. Okay. So here we have algorithm flowchart and pseudocode, applications and working of recursion, arrays and linked list, and stack and queue. So the questions which were asked in the previous interviews were, what is a flowchart? What is a pseudocode? Difference between array list, linked list, difference between arrays, okay, difference between recursion, difference between stack and queue, what are heaps. Okay, so if you understand the basic differentiation between each of these concepts, you're really good to go for the interviews because you might not know what might come in. Okay. Here, the DXE people are expecting you to know from scratch to the board to the top level, which is our Spring Boot technology, which you need to be good at. Okay, so we are going to start from scratch so that you're good for everything that comes in between, and there's no gap left between you and the interview. What is expected from the company?
Ma'am, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but will you cover Hibernate as well? Hibernate Spring Framework, DBMS?
Yes, of course, a program that will help you to do the programming. Yeah, or do the ORM framework. Yeah, I'll help you with that.
You will cover Hibernate as well. Spring Framework, Hibernate,
Yeah.
JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, and DBMS, Database Management System.
Did you go through the concepts? the topics which are already mentioned in the group, which you are already are.
Yeah.
It is mentioned in there. It is mentioned in there.
Yeah.
So there's no point of asking, right?
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was just
Yeah. Curious. Okay, fine. Not a problem. Okay. The examples are very layman. The slides that you see here are all curated ones. Okay. You can find it easily anywhere on internet and you can just use it, reuse it whenever you want it. Okay, so what you see in here is a simple example of what an algorithm is. If I have to give out a definition of an algorithm, it is a step-by-step representation to solve a particular problem. So by the end of the day, we are actually trying to create an algorithm to solve a problem. So what is the process we follow? We start, we actually write with step 1, step 2, step 3, and whatever steps we have to solve the problem. Okay, let's say I want to sum two numbers. Then I will say for start, the step 2 is going to be create variables to accept the data and to store the addition of two numbers. Then the third step will be to calculate the two numbers and assign that particular addition value to the third variable that you created. Then this fourth step will be to print the value, the calculated value, and then the next step or the last step will be to end. Okay, so this algorithm is supposed to be a list of instructions in simple English languages. Okay, that is what you do in your any kind of algorithms that you're going to deal with. Let's say, for example, you have got an algorithm for bubble sort. You have an algorithm for any searching technique. So each of these techniques that you're going to deal with, they are going to have set of instructions. They are going to have these steps to be followed so as to accomplish the task what it is supposed to do. Okay, so the next one is flowchart. Okay, before we actually go down for writing a program, we start with an algorithm for the problem definition. Then we go for flowchart because, many a times for a particular problem, this thing becomes very huge. Okay, the flowchart is, the algorithm is very huge. So I need to cut down, or I need to make it more understandable to me, to instead of reading out all the statements, it is easy for me to, have a pictorial view of the same. So this pictorial representation of algorithms helps me to clear out the things more easily. Okay. The next thing is, so you have got some representation like this is an ellipse. Then you have this parallelogram. Then there is some, what do you call it? Diagonal or whatever you call it, the kite sign to put up the conditions. Parallelograms are to take the input and output and so on. The next one, pseudocode. Okay, you should be. So the reason why we are going through this is you should not be very much unfamiliar about this topic. These topics are really important forms of basics. Once you're done with the basics, that is the reason why I'm not going to in detail for these. I'm just telling you that this is how it looks. A pseudocode is nothing but a false code, which is never going to be executed. It is never going to be compiled or executed by any of the compilers. Okay, it is not required. It is a false code. It is a mere code like structure, which helps you to actually write down the program. Because if you're new to programming, this is going to be a very big deal for you to actually write down the code, because syntax and semantics is supposed to be followed. So instead of doing that, we can do this. Yeah. If at all I'm going very fast, you can let me know. I can slow down my pace. Okay. And a feedback is always welcome. Okay. So you start with, these are the keywords. The things that you see in bold letters are your keywords, while the others are again the basic syntax that you follow for pseudocode. One example here, let's see this one. This is a better one. So this is how you follow the characteristic, simple, accurate, general term, general English, general statement that you write. When you talk about flowchart, you have all these symbols which are used for this reason. And for pseudocode, you have begin, end, except, display, set, if, else, etc. Yeah. Now, that was all about the basics of algorithm, flowchart, and everything. Now let's talk about recursion, arrays, and linked list. So recursion. So if you know what a function does in any of the programming thing, recursion forms a very important task in there. It is basically used to reduce the complexity, the time complexity that we are talking here about. But many a times recursion is not going to help us to do the same. Okay, depending upon the circumstances where we are using it. Okay, so we don't use it because it also increases the complexity of the program if it is a very if there's an alternative present for the same. Okay, so recursion is basically calling itself. Okay, here the calling is done to the method. Okay, the method is going to call itself again and again. Okay, so it is a method-based technique for iteration, for performing iteration. Instead of having loops and everything, I'm having this method to be iterated again and again until and unless an exit condition is met. Okay, you need to remember, guys, that while I'm talking about so many concepts, it is supposed to be understandable by you. The keywords which you need to fetch in while you're answering or while you're preparing for these questions, for these particular concepts. Okay, there's no programming required as such for the data structures, except if we are working with Java collections, there's an implementation for the same, then we are going to work in that perspective. Are we clear? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next, now, every time you need to understand that the application is, you just pick one concept and be strong, just hold one of the application and get a strong background for the same. Let's say, for example, if I'm talking about recursion, the application of the users for the same is going to be any math function, sum of numbers or series, sorting of vectors. These are the application where it can be used when I say compilers or for data mining and so on. So if something has to be repeated again and again for spell check, there the grammar comes in. So for all those reasons, I need to repeat my task, hence recursion comes into picture. Array, very common and very important concept of any programming language that we are going to deal with. Okay, so you should be knowing about this. So whenever you create an array, so first of all, a basic definition, an array is collection of multiple elements of same data types. You can only create an array, you can create an array of a single type. You can create an array of integer types, for character type, for string type, for object type, but the data that you're going to store within those types are going to be all same. Okay, the second point that you need to know about that it is going to give a contiguous or I would say a continuous memory location is allotted to that particular array name. So instead of giving 10 different variables for storing 10 different values, for those 10 values, I'm going to have a single variable name, and that will be iterated using your index number or position number or whatever you call it. Okay, so if you see in here, let's say there's an array created. Okay, array of 5. This array of 5 has got the first thing in here. Okay, let me just take up. So here you have this is the first place. This is the first place where you have created your array. So this is array of 0, 1, 2, 3. Index starts with 0. First address is 102. For the next is going to be 4 bytes, depending upon the bytes that particular integer occupies. So here it occupies 4 bytes. The next array element, so 4 bytes for each element will be stored of a size 5 of an array. The same example you can see down again in the side of 4. It is going to store inside the heap memory. Yeah. So then disadvantage that you should remember is the thing that you cannot grow the size of the array dynamically. No two different types of data can be stored inside the array. So of course, if I create an array of size 100 and I'm just trying to use only 50 of them, or maybe 25 of that size, then the other memory which is allocated for this array is of total waste, is of no use. So there's wastage of memory. So all these things you need to consider. Okay, the types you can see, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Examples you can see for single dimension. We can go for vectors for 2-dimension metrics, and for 3-dimension, that is for tensors, for 3D pixel representations, for 3D movies and everything. There's also 4D, any Ds that you can grow up to. Mathematical vectors, it is used in there. For database, of course, for storing database tables, we make use of all these things because there are rows and columns for each of these representations. We use it for sorting, for scheduling, to implement other data structures like heap, hash tables, queues, stack, etc. Linked list. Are we clear so far? Yes, people?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we clear about it? Any doubt, anyone?
No, ma'am.
Just a minute. Okay. Let's move on to linked list. In comparison to array, linked list is a better option. Considering the disadvantage wherein I cannot grow the size of the array, here I can dynamically grow the size of the linked list. And how is that? Here, instead of allocating continuous memory location, we are dealing with nodes and the pointer to the next node. So we have got basic thing here called as a node, which starts with a head. Okay, this particular node contains the data and the address to the next node. So the address of this node is 100, which is supposed to be placed inside the node. And this is your singly linked list. You can see for the next one, which is doubly linked list. In this one, the node contains data and pointed to previous and the next node. So let's see for this one, you can see the data is 3. The pointer to the previous node is 96 and pointer to the next node is 100. This is how it goes. And for the later part, you have got a circular linked list. So it is a singular linked list wherein the last node, instead of pointing to null, now it is going to point to the very first, the head of the linked list. Yes, it is again collection of data. We are going to have a lot of data in here. But here, the storage of the data is in the form of node, which is done in a random fashion. Whereas in array, it is in a continuous way. Yes. Application dynamic memory allocation. Yeah. For web browsers, you can see if I have to go for next and the previous one, doubly linked list is used in here. Right? For music players, again, to change the songs. Then OS to switch between application to implement data structures like stack and queue. We make use of all these things. Right? We're good so far. Yes, people?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything that you wish to ask me? Anything that you wish to talk about? Yes? Yes, no, anything? We're good? Okay, like I've told us before, DXE requires you to know the working, the underlying working and the application. Okay, so you have to pick one of the application and understand how it works and how it is useful, how it is applicable, how it is using the underlying data structure. Yes, to accomplish the task. Let's say for music player, how it is used, where it is used. You have to have a proper example for it. Just pick one example. These are the various things which I have. You can just pick one and be thorough with it. Okay, talking about stack. Now, again, a very important data structure which we have, which follows the principle of last and first out, like any books in the shelf, okay, like any other stacked items which you have in your house. So if you have to pick up the last one, you have to get rid of all things above it. Yes. So it follows that principle. So there are few operations that you need to remember, like there's push, there's pop, there's peek, then there's something called as is empty. So if you see to the right hand side, this is your empty stack. If I want to add in any element, then the method push is used for the same. Then I'm adding again 2, then there's 3. Then if I want to remove anything, then we can make use of pop. Then there's one called as peek. Peek is just going to show me what data is present. The difference between peek and pop is that peek is going to peek in the data, will not do anything into the stack. Whereas pop is going to retrieve the data and remove it from the stack. Okay, and this everything happens from the head, from the top. Yes. Whereas if I talk about queue, in queue, you have got an empty queue. It follows the principle of first in, first out. So one who goes first is supposed to get out first. So the two operations that we have in here is NQ and DQ. So we have the front and the back. So so whosoever comes first is supposed to go out of the system first. Yes. So the applications of stack Browsers, again, if you open new tabs, it is going to add up the tabs, and the new tabs will be added stacked on each other. Then you have got parenthesis handling, backtracking, algorithm conversion, parsing, and so on. So, assuming that you know what those concepts are, or you might get to be more familiar with, parsing is basically used for conversion. Okay, basically from let's say from decimals to binary. So you can just talk about that in there. Have some more information, research about it, and be ready with one of the usages. Talking about Q, it is for printers. Let's say for a very basic example here, I have given a command to my computer to print 10 pages or print 10 documents, 10 different documents. So they are going to go in the sequence in which they were ordered to print. The instructions were given to print. So it is going to be first in, first instruction, and first out. First it will be printed. Okay. Yes, so the last concept for this is heap. Heap is one of the types. It is where your data is stored in a tree pattern. Okay, so there's something called as heap memory that you must have heard about, where it stores the data haphazardly. But a heap in data structure is a tree-like or a complete binary tree representation. So there are two types. You have got max heap and min heap. You can see for the max heap, it is the largest value which becomes your root element. Whereas in min heap, it is the least value which becomes your root element. And then you can see there is the child. Okay, then there are various other nodes associated with it. To the left is going to be the lesser one, and to the right is going to be the greater one for as compared to what we have to the left hand side. Yes, you can just understand almost everything from the diagram. You just have to read more to get your basics more clear about it. So we use it into priority queue. It is OS scheduling for processing jobs by priority, whichever job has been mentioned for your operating system to be done at a particular point of time. Okay, then there's heap sort that you perform. Then there is graph algorithms that can be performed using this. And that's it. Yeah, so what do you think, guys? Do you understand this? Yeah. So for a lot of you, this is going to be a very common thing, but for those who are new, I think you understood what I'm going at, what I'm doing here. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's move on to the next topic that I wish to talk to you, which is about the next concept of data structures. Okay. We'll finish up data structures and then we'll move on to Java. Okay. If you would like to take a break for 5 minutes and then we'll start. Okay. Just a break for 5 minutes until you can digest what we have just been through. Okay. 5 minutes break. We'll start.
Sure.
Okay, let's continue. So I am sharing my next document, the next presentation, which again talks about data structures and algorithm. But here we are going to talk about the concept of trees, graphs, hashing, sorting, and searching. Now, again, let me tell you guys, I am not going in very greater details of the same. I'm giving you a heads up or a basic information of what you can, which path you can refer to. Okay, what you can just start with if you are stuck. Okay, that's going to help you in that perspective because the concept, each of these concepts are huge, they are humongous. Okay, so the thing that you see here is just going to help you to tap down your searching criteria. It is going to give you an idea what you need to search and what should be your domain for the same. Yes, are you good? Okay, so talking about trees and graphs first. So a tree is similar to any tree structure which we have. So if you see to the right hand side, it is nothing but a hierarchical structure of the data, how it is supposed to be presented. So like you can see, there are various levels in here. And there is a root node. Root node is followed by sibling. This is the child node, which is going to have two siblings. So if there are two child, they are going to be called as siblings again. There is the other node, and there is child node, and there the end node which you have is called as the leaf node. Okay, it is a basic parent-child sibling relationship which you have. The first node is the root node. Okay, and the last node is the leaf node. Okay, and the base levels. It is in this way that you're going to get your details into your system. So you're going to represent your data in any form of your data structures. Okay, so there's some properties which you need to understand that one node, there's only one node called as root. The tree originates from here. Okay, and it does not have any parent. The second one is each node is going to have a parent node. Okay, and each of these parent node can have multiple children. Okay, more than one child. Each node is connected to its children via edge. So you can see these are the edges which you have in here. The lines are your edges. So you should be familiar about these terminologies. The terminologies are important. Okay. So there are two types of trees. You have got general tree and binary tree. If you check in for the general tree, you can have more than two children in your general tree. Any number of children are allowed. Whereas in binary tree, the nodes are going to have at most two. Okay, not more than that is required, and there is a specific thing followed or a rule followed, which data or which child is supposed to go for to which parent. Okay, so if you check in this one, A is having two children, B and C. Okay, so these two siblings are going to share in the data. When B goes to before B and then E, so if there's another data which comes in F, it is going to go accordingly. Okay, it goes inside C and G. Okay, so this is what you need to understand. You need to understand how is this particular thing. So there's basic algorithm for the same. Data structures is huge. You need not know everything about it. Okay, you just know what is the highlights that is going to be applicable for your data structure, for your programming. Yes. The application used for traversal. So if I've got some set of data, I want to traverse through the data. So I know because of binary tree, the data is going to be stored in some particular fashion, so I can retrieve accordingly. Searching for decision making, whether should I opt for the option 1 or for the child 2, which is given to your decisions. Okay, then for machine learning, for dictionary data, for file system, for DOM structure of HTML. Again, if you do the document object modeling of HTML, it follows the tree hierarchical structure, where in this can be applicable. The tree structure is applicable. Okay, so next is graphs. Okay, graphs is nothing but again, okay, this is something which I missed. Okay, graphs is nothing but it is similar to your data structures again, but here the data is represented. Let me just give you an example. Sorry, I missed that. Okay. How does a graph look? Okay, so graph basically gives you a sense of direction where it is going and how it is supposed to be followed. Okay, so there are various things that you can refer to. There are edges, there are other stuff. Okay, let me just get an example. If not now, I can give you the example later. You did not worry about it. Okay, so this graph has got two of the implementations which you can know about. That is DFS and BFS. Do you guys know about it? BFS, DFS. Breadth first search, depth first search. These are the two searching techniques which helps you to get your details. Okay. Various representations, I'll just let you know for the same. Okay. So then, can anybody else tell me what is a graph? In spite of me going on and just talking too much. Yeah. Yes, people. Can anybody tell me what is a graph? No one?
It has set
You don't know what graph is? Graph is basically used inside a map. You can use it there. Any other places that you can mention? Yes, people.
Ma'am, graph is a non-linear data structure consisting of nodes and edges.
Great. It consists of nodes and edges, similar to what we had in tree. But there we had nodes and edges to represent in some fashion. So what is the fashion tree follow here? Yes.
graphs can be directed and indirected.
Yeah.
Graphs can directions.
Yes. It is used for directions. Okay. That's it. There are types of graphs, right? There are types of graphs. Yes. There's undirected and there's directed graph. Yeah. Directed graphs means it is supposed to follow a particular path, whereas undirected graph is you can go both ways, or bidirectional graphs. Yes. For now, I think this much is enough. Okay. Since I'm short of time, I'm not going to go with all the details. I'm just going to give you one and you can just find out with the rest of the thing. Okay. I just hope that is not an issue. Yeah, are we good here? Okay, so this is your graph, simple graph. Yeah, this is directed and undirected graph. You can just look up to. Okay, for temperature, for pressure, for rains and everything. So that was your non-linear data structure. So when we talk about, I just need to share my screen first before you understand what I am talking about. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Okay, there are nodes and these are edges, which are also called as vertices. So I have to write down the edges, then I will have to get on the path. Okay, so two implementing algorithms of this is depth first search and breadth first search. Application for getting the temperatures, the weather, the rain, etc. The next one, hashing. Now this is very important. These are the applications of data structure. What are the rather than saying an application is an implementation where all these techniques are used. So hashing is a technique, sorting is a technique, searching is a technique. Before I start with search hashing, I wish to start with sorting because this is a sequence it is supposed to be. So when I say sort, what do you mean by sort? I have got some set of data. I just wish to arrange it into some particular format. That is called as sorting. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it can be either ascending or descending. It depends which order we wish to go ahead with. Okay, so we have got things like before sorting and after sorting. So there are various sorting algorithms applicable in here. We have got bubble sort, insertion sort, selection, quick merge, heap, and there are non-comparison one that is counting and radix. If you see this example, so can you tell me which of which of these algorithms are what? So let me just start with this one. Okay, so I have this. Can you tell me which type of sorting algorithm is this? Anyone? Always try to remember a procedure or process by using a diagram. The diagram helps you the million more times than if you go reading out the concept. Yes? Any idea? No? Great. So this is your bubble sort. Bubble sort says that the adjacent elements are supposed to be compared so as to arrange the elements in either ascending or descending order. Okay, then we have got next, this is our mode sort. I understood this with the diagram wherein I'm going to do the role of divide and conquer. So I am going to divide my elements one at a time. Okay, so it's divided. So it is going to be divided until and unless the last element is left. And then comparison between each of these elements are done. And then they are merged together. Okay, so this is your merge sort. And there's insertion. This is this is your selection sort. This is your shell sort. And there are two more. Okay, you can just guess that. I've not given the name on the purpose. This is insertion sort. And the last one which you see is heap sort. Okay, so have a habit of having a diagram in front of you and then understanding the concept. It helps you more. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
we good? Okay. Next. So the next one is searching. So likewise, the thing that we use it for, let's say we are using sorting for sorting the elements. Searching is used to find an element, to search for an element within the chunk of data which we have. Now, it basically depends upon the storage which we have. So if I've got a haphazard memory location wherein my data is stored in a haphazard manner, so the sorting of data becomes very difficult for me. So I have to use any of these data structures to, to be used. Let's say I'm going to make use of an array or maybe a linked list to implement of any of these techniques. Okay, most of the times arrays are used. Okay, so you can see here there are two types of searching algorithms. Okay, so we have got linear search wherein we are going to search for each and every element in linear fashion, or otherwise we can go for binary search method. Okay, wherein we are going to first of all find the lowest point and the highest point, then finding the mid, and then from there I'm going to search which element is the element which I'm searching for nearest. Here I am searching for the value 1. So I am going to search for one thing at a time. So one column at a time is searched in here. But when we talk about binary search, I'm searching for the values 4 again. So I am going to start from here. So first of all, it has to find out the minimum mid section. And from here, it has to check whether this particular value 4 is greater than or less than 6. If it is less than 6, then it is going to go for this part of the data. And then the mid portion of that will be the value which we are looking for. It is more like a binary tree or a divide and conquer stuff. Are we good? Yes? Any doubt, please? Great. Okay, so let's say for the application, you can search application. If I'm going for a linear search, then I can go for searching smaller arrays, which is in, the items are less than 100. Okay, wherein if I'm working for libraries, for let's say if I want to go for libraries for this one for debugging, then I can make use of binary search techniques. Okay, the next part which we need to talk about is hashing. Okay, so in one of the conversations, I got to know that the interviewer expects you to know the working here. Okay, so there was an example given for this perspective to say what is hashing all about, the working of hashing, what is hashing process and how it works, what is the exact deal with it. So you'll get through a tons of example, because hashing is not a single process which is used in any of your single programming. It is used everywhere for doing some of the other tasks. So here, if I start with this one, you can see it as a method for searching and sorting. It is actually an alternate method for searching and sorting. It helps us to optimize the searching and sorting method of whichever we are going to take it. So how it is done, you can just see for this one. So there are few properties, or there are few terminologies which you need to be aware of. That is your hash code, your hash table, and separate chaining is one of the methodologies used. We can just refer to hash code and hash table. The thing that you see in here is your hash table, which consists of the input that is supposed to be seen, the hash function, which will be implied onto your data, and the hash keys, which will be generated to get that data. So this input data will be stored into a system based on the key, which will be provided by the hash function. So this is going to optimize the search. So this table will help me to again redirect or go to the data wherever it is stored within my memory. So it can be anything that you imply. So there is an hfx function which is used, which is a modulo of 7. So accordingly, the array is going to store my data accordingly. So the modulo value is this, and based on the index number, the data is stored. You get this? If not, then let's see one more example. Okay, so there is my ID and name, and I want to store this data. I want to optimize my sorting and searching. So I'm just going to sort this data, apply some hash function, and I'll be getting some data around here. Still not clear? Let's see this example. Okay, so so all the data, all the things that you see in here is actually, what do you call, is curated from the internet. You will get everything online. Okay, I'm not making anything new in here. I'm just referring to that to explain you, to tell you that these data are readily available. You just don't have to stick to what I am showing in here. You can just research and get through what is more relevant as per your convenience. Okay, so you can see here the data which I have is this, wherein okay, so there's name, there's ID, and the HR value. That is my hash function value that we are implementing. So we divide this value by 6. So there's an ID. This ID is going to hold this data. So I'm dividing this ID value with some of the other data, and this particular data is going to be stored. So let's say if I divide this by 6, I'm going to get the value as, let's say, 6 as a remainder. Okay, mod, what is the mod 13? Okay, there's some hash function implemented onto it. Okay, so the remainder is 6. So you can see the Z person is here, Ziad is in this particular position. Then you can see there is again a function implemented in here on the key value again. So there's a remainder 1. So Hussein goes for the position number 1. Okay, so everything depends upon the hash function, which is implied onto some of the other keys which you have, some of the other input values which you have. Okay, and the data will be stored accordingly. So later on, when I have to re-refer to them, I just have to refer to the index values or the keys which I have generated from the hash function, and I'll be optimizing my search, or I can optimize my sorting accordingly. Okay, there's more to it. This is called as hash table. Okay, these are the hash tables, hash code, and hash key which you have. Application, it is an alternative to traditional searching and sorting technique. Compilers keep track of your variables which you have declared by using hashing, because it is a pointer, right? So here hashing creates a hash table, which is a pointer, which is the key. This contains a key which is a pointer to a particular data in the form of index numbers which we have. And then gamers to track the position of where the gamer was in the previous position and where it has come from and everything. Okay, so this is all about your data structures that you need to go through. Okay, let me tell you, data structures is huge. It is very, very, very huge. Okay, and you don't need to go through everything, because here our main motto is to understand or to get through programming skills more, because we need to develop our skills of programming in hands-on experience is much more required rather than going for the conceptual part. The reason why I took this is for you to understand how much amount of things will be required. You can just explore, elaborate as per your convenience, but minimum of this is required. Am I clear to all? Yes? Any doubts so far? Yes, people.
No, ma'am.
We good? Okay. So now in next 5 minutes, I will start with Java. Okay. Basically, I'll start with OOP Java. What to code, how to code, and what kind of questions you need to expect in here. Okay. We'll take a break of 5 minutes in here and we'll be back. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Yeah. Shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So now we are going to go ahead with programming. So each and every one of you should be having their own method of writing the code. So it totally depends upon you. How do you code? But there are few tips and trips that you can pick up that is going to help you to do your coding more efficiently. Okay, so let's start with this. I am sharing my screen. Let me tell you the prerequisite, the thing that you need to have before you start with your programming, because we are going for the higher programming as well. So I'm going to ask you to choose for just stick to one IDE. Any one IDE is going to work. Do not change it for multiple ones. It is not there's no criteria given for which IDE you can look up for. But I would strictly recommend you to refer to or to use Eclipse because it is an open source, and it is good for you. It is good for any plugins that you wish to have for your system. It is a better option. I have been using this since a very long time, so it has been a habit for me to work with it. So now it's not necessary that the company will ask you to ask you to do the code using this software only. It depends whether they can have their own software. They can ask you to work with any other, like we have got a ton of other IDEs. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. So the major ones which you can opt for is NetBeans or IntelliJ or whatever you feel is good for you. Like Blue Jays are used in your schools and stuff. You can use them. Yeah. But now we should make sure that we are good to go with anything that comes in. So it gives you a lot of flexibility that you see in here, the screen. Okay, this is Eclipse. I'm using the version 2019. Okay, you can go for the latest one, but you should be aware about all the flows, all the beta things which need to be resolved. It should not be having any issues in there. Okay, so you can see here, this is my package explorer already. I have created two folders, two projects in here. But you need to make sure that you start from the very scratch and understand how this works. So first of all, you need to change your perspective. Since I'm working with the Eclipse, which is for Enterprise Edition, I need to change this to Java. So my perspective is Java right now. And I can have my compiler, console, and everything associated with the same. The difference between an enterprise edition and the version which we are working with is I am going to have public static void main to execute my code in here in Java edition. And if I'm into my perspective of EE, that is enterprise edition, there the project has to go live. It has to be deployed live as in into your own system or to some other system which is going to act as a server for your system. Okay. So first of all, every time we need to start by creating a project. So let me just create a project for today. So I can say new project, Java project, and I'm giving the name here. Since I'm following this deal, I am going to give the name as per the sequence which I am going to. So this is my project name. This is what you need to choose. So whichever version of Java you're working with, you need to specify that. So for you guys, the version of Java which is much more recommended is Java 8, or if not 8, it is very good if you know 11. Okay, so you need to upgrade in there, and you need to make sure that all the softwares and everything that is required is present with you. Okay, so everything needs to be configured here. You just need to press next. The source folder is supposed to be there when you're going to write your Java code. A finish would work, and then we start. Okay, so we can do a right click. Inside the source folder, we are going to create our class. So we are starting with OOP. So first of all, before I start with OOP, can anybody tell me what is OOP?
Object-oriented
Yes.
programming.
Okay, wonderful. What is that?
When we program based on the requirements of the clients.
What? When we?
Program based on the requirement, based on the client requirement.
That is OOP.
Yeah, I think so.
You think so? Okay, there's an interview question, a famous one. Java is not a pure object-oriented language. Why? Who can answer me this? Yeah? No one? Okay, from Java 8, there were functional programming introduced in Java programming. Hence, Java is not a pure object-oriented programming language. So the difference is that, first of all, we need to understand the paradigm that we are talking about. There are different approaches, different paradigm, which is accepted by each and every programming language that we have seen so far. Like if I talk about C, it is a functional-oriented or procedure-oriented programming language. If I talk about C++, it is a multi-paradigm, wherein it has function as well as object-oriented programming language. Java came after C++. It was a pure object-oriented, but later it was modified as per the functionality for being a function-oriented programming as well. Python, it is again a multi-paradigm programming language. It is both functional and object-oriented. So it depends. So there are few approaches which are followed, few paradigms which are accepted or which are adopted by each of the programming languages to accomplish some or the other tasks. The reason why they were created. Okay. Java being the high-level programming language, it is used for creating web applications, for creating desktop applications, for creating softwares, basically. Okay, so there are four major things, four OOP concepts that you need to be familiar with. There are four pillars of OOP. Okay, the first one is encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Okay, all these four concepts that you know about are very much related to each other. Okay, so if you're starting with encapsulation, or if you're doing your inheritance, if you're doing polymorphism, you have to implement some of the other concepts to it. Okay, so here I am going to start with inheritance. Okay, instead of that, let me start with encapsulation, then we'll move on to inheritance, then polymorphism, and probably at the end, abstraction. We'll try to accomplish as many concepts as possible for today. Okay, let's see. I'll try to keep it simple. I'll try to not complicate it for you so that you understand what we are dealing with. So I'm going to take a very simple example, a very simple name and example of employee. Okay, we know what is an employee. We are going to be a future employees, right? So an employee has got some attributes, some things that they need to know about. So let me just start with the definition of a class. Anybody tell me what is a class? Class is a blueprint. It is a template which helps us to declare or define what a particular functionality is supposed to be conducted by a particular entity. Okay. So here I am creating an employee. So it is always required. Let's make it a habit that you always specify the package name. So here I can specify either com or org depending upon my requirement. Com.ml, this is what I am choosing. And I am giving this name as we are doing OOP, and here we have inheritance. Okay, this is what I have. And within this inheritance, I am trying to implement single class inheritance. Okay, so I have got all the package name accordingly. So if I try to create these packages, I'm actually trying to indent folders in each of these categories wherein my folder can be located. Okay, wherein my class can be located. It's like File Explorer. So this is no, I had to start with, I had to start with the encapsulation, right? Let me start with that first. Okay, sorry. So instead of this, I will have to write encapsulation. Okay, and again, the employee class. Okay, so A class is a collection of data member and member function. So let me just define the data members of the class. What are going to be the data members here? Its ID, its name. Okay, data members are nothing but their properties. Yes. So how do you define that? Let's say, for example, it has got an ID. So I say EMP ID. An employee has its name. So I'll say string name, EMP name. Just make sure that you follow the proper naming convention. Okay, here I'm making use of the class wherein the class starts with an uppercase E. Okay, the name of the variables are in camel case. The name of the methods are going to be in camel case. Okay, interfaces, class entities are in camel case. Okay, so let's say I'm just picking up, I'm just say I have got one more, let's say double for EMP salary. Okay, I am storing one, let's say a Boolean value. Okay, Boolean to check whether it is an active employee or not. Yes, I can do all these things. I'm just making up my deal. Okay, let's say consider this was given to me. Okay, encapsulation by the definition, it is supposed to wrap up the data into a single unit. So a class is a very perfect example of wrapping up of data under a single unit, and it can be only used when you create an object of this particular class. So how do we do that? How do we actually work with this? Let's see that. So whenever you are creating this employee class for encapsulation, you need to make sure that you always have a constructor. Okay, a constructor, let's say a default constructor would work. Okay, you can specify the details that you wish to put in here. You can have a constructor. Okay, now how do you put in? You can just go for source. Then you can go for generate constructors using field. You can specify which all fields are required for your system. You can specify that here. You can have as many constructors as possible. It is all up to you. It depends upon your requirement. Okay. Constructors are used to initialize the object. Here, constructor will be used to initialize the object with the members like ID, name, salary, and whether the employee is active or not. Okay. Apart from this, you can also create one more, which is getters and setters. Getters and setters are the ones which are going to help you to access the value of the class, the values of the variables of a class. Okay, if they are private. Okay, so now let's consider this variables are private, then it is going to be much more useful. Let me just go ahead with that later. Okay. Let me just create one public static void main, one main method class. So this is my test class, which consists public static void main into it. Okay. So if I have to simply access the employee object and store some data into it with their various methods, I can say employee. Employee is equal to new employee. This is how you create an object of a class, if I'm not wrong. Yes. Anybody with any doubt that I'm doing over here? Is everybody okay? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope I'm not going for rocket science. I'm going from scratch. That's the only deal. If you want me to go quick, go fast, I'll do that. Okay. So here I can either go for this one. I can initialize the value this way, or I can also create an object wherein I'm calling my constructor wherein the value will be initialized. Let's say here I'm specifying the value. The constructor contains a value in the sequence. Okay, ID, name, salary, and is active. So let's say I am creating an ID 101. Name is me. The salary that I wish to give is supposed to be in decimal numbers. Okay, something like this. And then I need to specify true or false. I'll say true. Okay. Otherwise, I can go for the previous method. Okay, let me show the difference between both of them. You'll get to know how exactly this works. If at all, I'm going with this method. Okay, so I will have to, let's say, employee dot EMP ID. So now you can see here, using the object name, I can directly access the variables of the class. And since I can access the variables, I can actually access the values present in the variables, which is going to make my data insecure. Okay, so now I need to secure my data. So I should not be able to do this. So to avoid this happening, I am going to make it private. Okay, so once I do that, if you check, now it is not going to allow me to write the same field that I just did, employee.empid. The ID thing is not available, the field is not available, and hence my data is secure. And the class which you see in here is nothing but your Pojo class, which stands for plain old Java object, which helps you to achieve encapsulation, thereby helping you to secure your data. Yeah, it is hiding your data. Am I clear to all? Yes. So now what I can do here, instead of having employee ID, I can make use of getters and setters. So if you check for employee ID, I have got its corresponding getter and setter. So this get method is supposed to return me the integer value, because the return type or the data type of my employee is integer. And likewise, I have got my set ID, wherein I need to pass in the value while this method is called, so as to set the value of employee ID to the employee ID of my class. So we are not directly accessing the value. We are going via the method, the public method of the same class, to access the private member of the class. Yes. So this is how it is done. So if I have to go for all the four, so there are getter setters created for all the four. Okay, this is for string name, this is for salary, this is for is active or not. Okay. Apart from this, you can also have one more, which is toString method to see what is the data which it holds. I am overriding toString method. ToString method is of object class, which helps us to print the object itself. So here, if I'm going to print the object employee, I can see all the values which are present in my employee object. Okay, so I can go directly that way. Okay, so I am in here, and let me just set in the value. So I will say set ID. The same thing I can specify. Okay, then I can go for employee dot set name. So I'm saying Neha. Okay, employee dot set salary. So again, let me just specify some value. It has to be in decimal. Okay, and then employee dot set is active. Set active. Yes, it is true. Okay. So either I can opt for the previous method or for this one. Now, if I have to print the value, I have to say get. Okay, let's say, for example, I want to say employee dot get ID, employee ID. It is simply going to print me the employee ID. Let me just see this. Only the employee ID. What if I want to do this? Then I have to write employee dot get employee name, get employee salary, and only then I can access them. So instead of doing that, if I have to directly write employee, it is going to give me all the details present or contained inside my employee object, because I have overridden my toString method inside my Pojo class, inside my encapsulated class, which is this. So whatever sequence you have written in here will be displayed into this portion. Okay. So the same thing can be done for this one. Let's say this is my employee 1. Okay. And I want to print, then I can just make use of employee 1.get ID, get name, and get whatever I want, or I can simply print my object, employee 1. Yes. And I will be getting the output accordingly. You can see there are two different values. Yes, people. Do you understand? This is encapsulation. Here we are playing with public and private access specifiers. So encapsulation or securing of data can be done by using access specifiers or modifiers, public being the least restrictive, wherein any data which is created, which any property which has been created using public modifier can be accessed anywhere. When we talk about private, it is the most restrictive one, wherein the variable or anything declared as public cannot be accessed outside the class. So if I create private in here, it cannot be accessed outside the class. That means inside my test class. The next one is your protected. Protected is used for if I specify this particular member to be protected, it will be accessible within the same class. the child class or the subclass, or all the classes which are present in the same package. Whereas and also to the subpackage is subclass. If there's a subclass or the parent class of this one, then we can access it there too. The last one is default. If I don't specify any of the access specifiers, it is by default. That means you cannot, what do you call? You can access it everywhere within the package and not outside. Whether let that be the subclass or anything else that you have. Are we good here? Yes, people?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts so far?
No, not at all.
Okay, great. Now, so people, you need to make sure that if any of these concepts are asked, okay, you need to have a proper example to implement and to talk about for the interview. Let's say, for example, there was one question asked, what are the various data access specifiers used in Java? So you can mention all of them. You can also create a class and show them what happens if any of these access specifiers are applied or implemented to any of these variables or methods that you have into your system. Okay, apart from that, they also ask you a question on what is encapsulation, how it is implemented, and how it is different from abstraction. Okay, so when we see abstraction, then we will be in a better position to answer this question for difference between encapsulation and abstraction. But first, now we are going to move on to the next topic, which is inheritance. Are we good here? Shall we start with inheritance? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there are two types of inheritance. First of all, let's start with what is inheritance all about. Always, guys, whenever you go for an interview, you have to make sure that you don't have to make your interview difficult on yourself. Okay, the more simple your language is, they are not going to dig you in that detail. Okay, so let's say you give all the definition. There's nothing like definition in programming. There's no definition for anything. There are simple words which can be rearranged as per your requirement. So when I say about if you have to define something, you have to give a simple statement about your understanding to that particular concept. So if I talk about inheritance, I can say it is a simple parent-child relationship. It is used to extend the property of an already existing entity. Simple words, simple understanding, but from technical perspective. You need to make sure that all the words that you use are technically sound. They look for these technical statements. They're going to look for the way you talk. Okay, they're going to look up for the way you are going to present yourself. How cool are you? Cool as in how positive are you? How calm you are while giving all the answers for the interview. Okay, because many people they panic, right? So this is going to be one of the options that you can refer to. The next thing that you can go ahead with is, let's say, so how do you answer a question? Okay, let me just give you an idea about this. Let's say you have been asked about, tell me what is inheritance? Okay, this was the question. So how are you going to answer or reply for this one? You will say inheritance in your definition, in your terms, whatever you know about it. The next point should be the types of inheritance which is followed in Java. You will say, let's say for me, here the inheritances are of two types. We have got single class, the single parent inheritance, and this multi-parent inheritance. When I say single parent or single class inheritance, there's going to be only a single class involved as a parent. So there are types such as single inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, or multi-level inheritance. When I talk about multiple parent or more than one parent or multi-class inheritance. Then you have multiple inheritance and hybrid inheritance. These are the basic 5 types which you have, which you should be knowing how to be implemented in your programming. Okay, it's not only the concept which is supposed to be strong, because also your code and the example which you opt for writing the same is important. Okay, you should be able to talk about the code that you have written. You should be able to not explain, but you should be able to give an ideology what you are following, the approach that you are saying. You should be conveyed. You should be able to convey the same to the interviewer. That is what they expect. You don't have to be a rocket scientist in here. You just have to be yourself. You just have to be more productive, because the people there, they want you to be good. They don't want you to just sit on the bench and do nothing and just learn throughout the whole year. No, they want you to be productive from the first day. Not necessarily, but they want you to be good from the next day. Learning, the eager to learn, the eagerness to, excel in whatever you are doing. The task given to you is the main deal in here. So everything starts from the scratch, and that is the reason why we are starting from scratch in here too. Okay, so we are following single class inheritance. Now, instead of taking an employee, I will take an example of, can anybody give me an example that you want me to represent for a parent-child relationship? I don't want animal example. I don't want any vehicle example. Apart from that, can anybody come up with a different example for the same, for implementing inheritance? No?
Sports, ma'am.
What?
Sports.
Sports. Okay, I should mention this. No sports. These are very common internet examples. You can always improvise something that you can talk about in here.
A
Yeah?
car example, ma'am.
Car, I said no vehicle. Car is a vehicle. Nothing? Okay, there is a very common example of mathematical calculation. That is just for playing very safe. You can use that. Okay, you can go for any native example that is going to help you to explain the concept in your perspective. Okay, so from my perspective, I'm going to take, I need to think, what should I take? Area. Yeah, not a very common example, right? Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
it is a very common example. Do some research, you'll get to know. Okay, so why am I choosing this? Because I get to play a lot. I will have to, and I'll be getting a lot of areas to show you when you can work in. So this area, I can calculate area for a lot of things, for a lot of shapes that we have in geometry, right? We have got circle, we have got square, rectangle, triangle. You can use all those things, right? So I am creating a variable here called as double area, which is going to keep the whole or the count of the calculated area. Apart from that, I am creating a method inside my area class, which will help me to calculate the area. So let's say I will say this as public void cal area. This is the method which I have. Yes, and then I can just do some mathematical calculations if I have any. For now, I don't have, because I'm simply creating a method which is supposed to do nothing. So I'll just keep it as it is, or maybe I can have a SSO statement and saying method to calculate area. Okay. One more method, void. Let's always start with public. Okay, public void, and this is to print area. And I can print the area. So area is equal to concatenation with area. Yeah. Simple example, simple class that you can see in here. Yes, any doubt with this? Very simple example that I have seen that I am using in here. Okay, so I am creating an object of this class. This is my public static void main. So what I'm going to do, I am going to create an object of the class area. Okay, area A, or let's say area A is equal to new area. Oops. New area, and there is A dot. I can call all the methods, right? Cal area and A dot display or print area. The two methods which I have in my system. Let me just execute. How is a single class inheritance? No, this is not a single class inheritance. It is a simple example of a class. Okay. Methods are executing. Okay, fine. Well, not a big issue for me. Okay. So now, let's say I am creating one more class in this one. The class name is circle. Okay. You can come up with your own vehicle, animal class example. Okay. It is all up to you. But make sure that it is a bit improvised. Okay, so I have got class circle. Now what I want to do in here is I want to calculate the area of the circle. So for now, I have got a double radius with me. Okay. Radius value, which I will be accepting from the user again. Okay, or maybe it will be coming on from somewhere. I'm having a constructor, or maybe I am, yeah, let's keep a constructor here. Maybe to initialize some value. If I don't have a constructor, then I'll have to create one. Okay, so you'll be getting an idea of constructor loop. So this is my default constructor wherein I'm initializing the value for the radius. So let's say I will be giving the radius value as 10.0. A simple calculation. And then I need to create a method to calculate the area, and then I need a method to print the area. So why don't I use the one which I have created already? So this will act as a parent, and I'm simply going to use it here. So what I need to do in here is to extends what? Extends area. Yeah, so once I do that, it is very much mandatory for me, it's many a times, required for me to override the method. So the method that I wish to override here is cal area, the first one. Okay, you can get rid of this override sign, that's okay. Okay, it's not required. And the second one, the second method which I need is print area. Yeah. Something like this. So what should I write in here? I should write the calculation. So the calculation says that I need to multiply this by 3.14 into radius. But I need to store this inside something, right? I need to store this inside the variable radius, so inside the variable area. So I need to create one. No. Since I'm extending the class area, the variable which is present in here can be directly accessed in my subclass. So I simply have to write area is equal to 3.14 into radius into radius. Yeah. And for printing, I need not override this as well. It is still going to work for me because I have written what is supposed to be done. The only thing was I was not having any definition for this one, but I have a definition for print area wherein it is supposed to be the value of the area, right? So let's see how is this going to work? Okay, let's say I'm going to create a class object circle is equal to new, okay, new circle and circle dot calculate area. And because circle is inheriting area class, I can also write circle dot print area, which is present in my parent class. Yeah. And you execute the code. Yes, people, you do the math. It is doing the job. Do you understand? This is single inheritance. Yes, people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, let's say I want to use it for some other calculation, then I can do that too. Let's Wherein can we use this area of circle in any of the implementations? Then you can let me know. Anybody? So, like we have circle, we can also have square, we can have triangle, we can have rectangle to extend area, and then I can have a single parent, multiple children. That is okay. Okay, now the next inheritance that we have to look up to is, yeah, this one that I'm talking about. The next inheritance is hierarchical inheritance, wherein I'm creating a class called as square. Okay, even this has got public static void main into it. I need to calculate the area for the same, right? So I'm going to extend 8. Okay, and as per my understanding for this one, I would require a double side, which is supposed to be initialized to some value. Then I just need to override the method calc area. Yes, and the other thing remains the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to do the same deal. Area is equal to sides, side into side, side into side. Okay, now the difference here is I did not write the constructor. So let me just create one constructor to initialize the value for. So the value for constructor is this way. I'll say side is equal to maybe say 40 or something. And now we're supposed to do the rest of the work. So, reusability is the funda that we are implementing, that we are trying to use in here. The reason for using inheritance is to not write the code, the repetitive code again and again. Okay, I am just using things from the previous one, from the parent one, from the existing thing, and just modifying as per my requirement. I'm overriding, I'm manipulating as per my need. This is single and hierarchical inheritance. Are we clear about this? Yes? Anybody? Any
Yes, ma'am.
doubt that you wish to talk to me? Okay, you can come up with your own example like I have told you before. Okay, don't go for the common ones. I have not seen this very commonly. People use the examples such as animal example, vehicle example. They are very commonly used. Okay, if you want to use that, just try to improvise for the same. Don't be on a very monotonous tone. That is what I'm saying. Okay, dot print area. And here we go. Yes. Do we get this? So hierarchical and single class, a single inheritance. Your job is to get through multi-level inheritance. Okay, one of the other types of single class. Now let's go for the other type of inheritance, which is multiple inheritance. Okay, which is for multi-class or multi-parent inheritance. Okay, so let me just call this as, I will be creating one class such as area, which I have already. Let me just not have public static void main into it. Okay, I'll just keep it as it is. So I'm just copy pasting what I have here. There's no rocket science, so I need not worry. These are the 2 things which I need to have in my area class as well. Yeah. Yeah. And I need to have one more class. Let's say this time I also have one more class to implement. So I call this as perimeter. Okay. And this perimeter is again having some properties, some variables into it. Let's say it has got peri, which is of type double. Perimeter, okay, is equal to 0.0. Initialization is very important. Okay, next is let's say you need to have your constructor. You can add on that. I am having a method public, okay, void cal perimeter. Okay, and you can do your own math. You can write whatever calculation you want. For now, since this is the base class, I don't have anything to calculate. I'll keep it as it is. I'm just going to say this is for calculating perimeter. Okay, if at all the object of this class is called. Okay, and then I have got a public void print perimeter. Okay, and I just print the value for the perimeter. So perimeter is equal to perimeter is equal to plus perimeter. Yeah. Now what I want to do is I want to have this both the classes inside my implementing class called as circle. Okay, so I'm having a circle class and I want to have both the methods for calculating the area and for calculating the parameter. Okay, so what I'm going to do, it is very simple, right? I am going to write down extends what? Area, comma, perimeter, right? Yes, people? But it is giving me an error. So here comes the question, why multiple inheritance is not supported by, I'm sorry, why multiple inheritance is not supported by Java. Okay, so the multiple inheritance is not supported by Java so as to overcome the confusion, the ambiguity that my compiler might get. Okay, let's say there are two similar type of entities within these two parent classes. So the child class which is implementing both these classes it is not sure to the compiler which entities, which property is supposed to be fetched from which of the entities. So to get rid of that problem, to get rid of that ambiguity issue, multiple inherits, after extends, you cannot have two classes. Okay, but you can have two interfaces. Or you can have one class, one interface, one abstract class, one interface. At the end of the day, instead of having class, you need to create an interface. So how do you do this? How do you create this? So now instead of creating a class, I am going to make this as an interface. Spelling interface. Yes. So interface is similar to that as a class, but the only difference is there's no definition to the methods of an interface. Okay, you cannot define the method of an interface. By default, all the methods are static and fine. So you can see they are only declaration. Also, if I try to declare a variable in here, the problem becomes that it has been defined as 0.0. So if I try to change the value in my implementing classes, it won't allow me because it is final by default. It is public and final here. So even I need to get rid of this. So what remains in here are only two definitions, are only two declarations, that is cal area and print area. So now why do we use this? Because any which ways I'm going to implement it into my system, right? Any which ways I want to implement this into my class, but the definition is going to change. So why just not have a template in the form of interfaces and implement it or use it into my implementing classes or child classes? You get the point? Yes, people? So now here, instead of extending area, now I can implement area. Okay, now let me just get rid of this. So I will say implements area. So now this is not going to give me an error. But now still my thing is left. I cannot have perimeter. Yes, I can have, even though it is a class, I can create a perimeter. I can extend a perimeter. So at the same time, I can extend the class and implement an interface, something like this. So it becomes necessary for me, if I'm implementing a class, implementing an interface, to override all the methods which are present in there. So you need to implement all the unimplemented method, the cal area method, which you have declared inside your cal area and print area. Yes, understood, people? Yes, guys. Don't worry, I am going to, yeah, tell me.
With extend, we can use implement also.
Yes, we can. But in extends, I can only extend one class, but in implements, I can implement more than one interface.
Okay.
Okay, that is how we achieve multiple inheritance in Java. by using interfaces.
It will implement in parameter class or with a circle.
Parameter class as in?
Ma'am,
Perimeter is a class, yes. Perimeter
yes.
is a class.
So ma'am,
It
area
will
will
extend the class and implement the interface. Area is an interface.
okay, ma'am.
Okay. So if I get rid of everything else, this is what is left in my interface. Yeah. So this is going to be a simple template that is never going to be missed if any of the class is implementing it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Something like this. I need to do this. I need to override the method. Yes, people. So now I can have cal area, I can have print area, I can have cal perimeter. Okay. I can have the other method. What is it? It is print perimeter. Okay, so basically it makes my programming more reusable. I'm not actually defining the code again and again. I'm not actually declaring the code again and again. I'm defining this as per my requirement, thereby maintaining a what do you call it? Thereby maintaining the thing which we are doing in here. That means I'm following a particular norm. I'm just following what is given into my instructions, and there's no major criteria or diversification required. My syntax remains the same. My basic underlying programming remains the same. The only thing that changes here is the definition for each of these methods as per my requirement. So if I have to calculate the area and perimeter for a square, then I just have to do the same thing. Yes, it works in that perspective. So now if I have to calculate area, what I can do is I can declare the variable here instead of declaring it in there. So I can say double area, okay, which let's say I will be declaring it for say 0.0. Okay, I also need double radius 0.0, and we can do the rest of the calculations, right? So the calculation says that I just need to say area is equal to, before I need that, for that I need a constructor. Yes, somebody is saying something. Yeah. So I'm giving the radius value 0.2523, something like this. And I'm calculating the area again. So 3.14 into radius into radius. Yes, this is my area. I simply have to print, and I can just change the definition as per my requirement, because now it is giving me more flexibility to change the definition. Okay, since I'm working with that. So here I say area, or I can be more specific, area of circle is equal to n plus 8. Okay, whereas I don't have to call this print perimeter because this method contains some value into it, right? Some definition is given already. I just have to calculate the perimeter. The perimeter is equal to 2 pi r, so 2 into 3.14 into radius. This is the formula. Okay, you need to be good in geometry. Don't worry, I'm not great in geometry. I just remember some formulas that I'm implementing. Okay, so now comes the place wherein I need to call all the methods. So I need to create the object of the class. So I say circle C, or circle is equal to new circle. Okay, and then I can call all the methods accordingly. Circle dot cal area. Okay, then you can call circle dot cal perimeter. Circle dot cal, oops, sorry, not cal, but print area, and then circle dot print perimeter. Yeah. So now if I execute the statement, I am making use of multiple inheritance. This is not giving me anything because I have not written anything. I've done. Then why am I not calling it? Print perimeter. Oh, I'm calling cal perimeter again. I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be dot print perimeter. So it has to give me a output. Yes. So here we are trying to achieve multiple inheritance. Basically, we are doing single class inheritance and multi-class inheritance. Likewise, you can also go for one of the questions which comes for hybrid inheritance. What is a diamond problem? Okay, so a diamond problem is a hybrid inheritance wherein you have got a single parent, multiple children. There are two children basically, and those two children again they become the parent for one of the implementing classes. So A extends B and C, wherein B and C are extended further by D. So here there is a diamond shape created which forms the diamond problem. Okay, so how it is solved, that you can get through, and you will understand basically what is happening in inheritance. Are we clear, guys? Any doubts so far? Yes? We good, right?
Yes, ma'am.
One concept that I can finish up here is abstract class, abstraction. One of the interfaces, they help us to achieve 100% abstraction. So if I have to again have other method of abstraction, it is by using abstract class and abstract method. What is an abstract class? It is similar to any class. The only thing is an abstract class can contain both abstract as well as non-abstract method. What do you mean by an abstract method? An abstract method is only with definition. Interfaces only contain abstract methods into it. So I can also have a class containing an abstract method, but it can also have a non-abstract. That means the method with some definition into it. So let's say this particular thing does not make sense because I'm not doing any calculation in here. Let me just delete all the definition which I have of perimeter. I'll just make it more abstract, and I just have to specify abstract. And so because any of your method of the class becomes abstract, you need to also make the class abstract. So if you make your class abstract, you cannot create the object of that class because it contains a method which is having no definition to it. So to restrict that, you cannot instantiate the object for the same. Okay, so that means here if you check, if previously it was allowed for me. So if I am doing for this one, okay. So if I'm doing for my area class, it was allowed, right? Yes, I can create a class object and work with it. Previously, in the same thing, if I had my definition, then I can create the object of perimeter class and I would have been able to work with it. But because I've made this as an abstract, I cannot create an object, instantiate an object. What I mean here is I cannot do this. Perimeter is equal to new perimeter. I cannot do this. It is going to create an anonymous thing, which I am not doing for now. Yeah. Although abstract classes can have constructors. Okay, it can have all the private and public, private, abstract, all the kind of methods that you want. The only thing is you cannot instantiate the object for the same. You cannot do this, but of course you can extend an abstract class. So once you extend an abstract class, you will have to, by default, or you will have to extend, if you're extending an abstract class, so it is mandatory for you to override the method, the unimplemented method. If you don't override the method in here, then you will have to make this class abstract as well. Okay, we don't want to do that. Then we are just going to override the method perimeter, which is abstract in my perimeter abstract class. Yes, people. Okay, so everything so far good. One more concept that I can put in, that I can get in together, is of dynamic method dispatch. Let's do it later. Okay, so for now, we will just wind it up here. So anybody, do you have any kind of doubt? Anything that you wish to talk about?
No, ma'am.
Yes?
No, ma'am.
You're good here, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll be sharing this code like I've done before. You can just refer to it and let me know if you have any doubt. Okay? No doubt, so I'll just end up the session here. Okay, so next time when you come, you need to be prepared For your other task, that is next time we are going to talk about our programming again. We are going to move on to module 2 OOP. Module 2 OOP is already done. We are going to go for the next concept, which is collections. Very important, very crucial. And if you're done data structures, it is going to be a piece of cake for you. Yeah. Yes, people, any doubt?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, no doubts so far.
Everybody good?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. If at all I'm going fast, just let me know. I'll just lower down my pace. And this is the day 3 zip that I'm sharing with you all that we have done today. Okay, please download it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anything else that you wish to talk to me about? What kind of questions that might come in or anything else? Okay, if you don't have anything, let me tell you how to answer the questions, any kind of question which you have. Okay, let's say they ask you a question, what is this? What is inheritance? What is string? What is encapsulation? What is abstraction? You come up with the proper definition for the same. Then you give all the working, all the usefulness of that particular concept. Let's say I want to talk about inheritance. Inheritance is extending class from an already existing entity. Okay, and it is used for reusability. It helps me to reuse the code. I don't have to write the code, redundant code many times. Okay, it can be done by using extends or implements keyword. Multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. We can have single inheritance, more than one class inheritances, and we can specify an example for the same. The problem with this is one of the problem that diamond problem which occurs when we try to implement hybrid inheritance into our system. So you can talk about that. You can give up a proper example. Class A extends B. This is my example. You can go for area circle. You can go for vehicle, car. You can go for animal, human. But make sure that you have always improvised your answer so that you don't be into the monotonous thing that has been coming since a very far, you are good. You are into the new fresh thing, which you are actually working for. So that's it from my end. I hope you guys have downloaded. Yes? Did you guys download this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I shall end up my session. And do let me know if you have any doubt. You have my email address and we can contact in there. If at all you wish to contact to me, you can have my other details. I'll get to you later. Okay? Bye all.
Thank you, ma'am.